Hey guys, it is David, and we are back with Daily Thoughts number 13 today. I have a bunch to talk about today. It has been a very, very long day, and it's been a very, very long week already. We're going to talk about the U.S. justice system, the U.S. tax system, the FOMC meeting fallout from yesterday and the rate hikes, how that's affecting stuff. We're going to talk about the Canadians for a little while, and Justin Trudeau and some of the weird crap that's happening up there. We're going to talk about traditional marriage and the church and just some stuff that's going on with that right now. And we're also going to talk about AOC and her being kicked off of multiple committees in the Congress, including the Foreign Affairs Committee, which is, in my opinion, fantastique. So it may be a longer video today. I wouldn't doubt it if it goes past 25 minutes, but the long and short of it is the world is on fire, and the United States of America the United States of America and its systems are slowly, and maybe not so slowly anymore, falling apart. And my generation, the millennials, are going to be the ones who have to pay for it. And so yeah, I'm super happy about that. I'm also going to talk a little bit about chickens. I have a little hobbyist chicken farm at home, and I'm going to be moving some of the chickens over from they were little chicks a little while ago. Now they're going to be turning into big chicks, so and starting to lay eggs. And maybe that's in preparation for the upcoming depression or World War or Civil War or whatever the hell's coming. But at least I'll have eggs. So I have some chickens now. We doubled our flock here. So anyway, let's dive right into it. The U.S. justice system is a joke, and I don't. The only thing I can do right now is laugh and kind of smile about it because it's so patently ridiculous. You've probably heard me talk before a little bit about the justice system and how I feel like it's kind of ridiculous, and a lot of the aspects of law enforcement these days has been extremely militarized. And I think a lot of the purpose of law enforcement now is to intimidate and to create revenue for the counties and for other cities and such municipalities of all different kinds by tickets and fees, and that's just outside of jail. Once you get into the correction system, then you have parole and probation and the drug courses and all that kind of stuff, which are more revenue generators for the county and for the city. So the way that I kind of see the whole law enforcement system nowadays is kind of just a giant revenue generating platform for the government. You get arrested. I've never been arrested, thankfully, but you can get arrested and then you go to jail, you serve your time, whatever, and then you get out, but then you're on parole or probation, and you then have to pay for classes in order to be re-educated to back into society to be a functioning member. So you're paying the government even more to go back into society. We've had multiple people that I've had work here for me that were recovering addicts, and they were paying for some of the courses that they were going to in order to get back into. If they didn't take them, they would go back to jail. Okay, which seems kind of patently ridiculous to me, and I understand that somebody has to pay for the time for these people in order to do that, but if this person is already gone to jail and their life is basically ruined and they don't have a lot to begin with, and adding more financial burden on top of them is not going to help them become more fiscally responsible, which is a large problem of why people fall into drugs, is being poor and around the wrong people, right? So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The other aspect of this, the attorneys and the law enforcement officers they all kind of know each other. And from what I can understand, it's just a giant cyclical circle jerk of the attorneys. There's a giant pool of attorneys in the area. They then are elected to be judges, right, for whatever area that is. And then the judges will see attorneys and their clients from the same area, and then the judges determine how long these proceedings are going to go or not go. So the attorneys are making money based on their hourly rate by what the judges tell them or what the judges' proceedings are going through. So you could have a judge that's just like, well, you know what, we're gonna extend out all of these proceedings for this particular lawyer, or we're gonna make these shorter, or we're gonna do things this way or that way, or whatever it is, and then lawyers would get more money based on whatever proceedings happen past that. And once again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all of this, but I have been through a couple law proceedings here recently, both personally and also in my business, that make me kind of realize that the justice system in the United States of America is definitely set up to screw low-income people. If you can't afford a lawyer, you are screwed. Both in a civil and criminal aspect, whether that be a lawsuit or defending yourself against all different kinds of stuff. It is absolutely set up against you. And that's just wrong. I think that's wrong in a lot of different ways. And then the attorneys then go on to be judges that go on to determine basically the revenue of what the attorneys are going to be making off of their clients at a certain time, right? And then not only that, a lot of these fees that are paid through the legal system and when there's ever a civil or a criminal case, there's a fee that goes along with the penalty, right? And so then these people pay the people who are the plaintiffs and the defendants in these cases, then pay fees to the county or the city or wherever the municipality is, which is then a revenue generator for the city, right? Or for the municipality, right? So the government is just creating a whole bunch of laws by the attorneys who go to be politicians in whatever, local, state, or federal government. Then the attorneys that are back home then get to, counsel their clients and make $250+ an hour off of whatever that is. And then the judges are determining how long these lawyers are counseling their clients. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. This whole system is built to suck the money out of middle class Americans and low class Americans. Low, not in the term of that they don't have any class, like not couth, but low income. I would say is a better word for that. And these lawyers are just making hand over fist kind of money, right? And so are the judges, and the judges are then paid obviously by the municipalities of the area. And then they get health care from the government, and they get their pensions and all these other things. But the taxpayer, the normal average citizen, the middle class citizen, is the one that's paying for that. And let's transition right into the tax system in the same aspect. You have a system here where if you're just an average middle class individual, you're paying approximately 25 to 30% of your income already in income tax right off the bat. And most of the time people have that withheld from their income or withheld from their check every week, bi-weekly or monthly, whatever. And the reason that they do that is so they don't have to pay a huge tax bill at the end of the year, and maybe they'll get a refund for overpaying or whatever. But you pay once in your income tax, right? And then in Indiana here, we have a 7% sales tax. So if I spend my money, so if I make money, I get taxed. If I spend my money on literally anything that's not tax exempt, I pay 7% immediately on that. The reason I'm talking about this today is I just registered 2 of my vehicles today, and it cost me $1,000 for 2 beat up beater vehicles that cost me personally less than $15,000 combined. And I paid $1,000 in taxes and registration fees for vehicles that are just what the hell ever, but you pay money when you get paid, you pay money when you buy things, and then you pay also again when you have fees and penalties and licensing and all of these other things. It gets to a point where you are, and me included, are paying 40+% of our income in taxes, fees, licensing, and all of these other things to a government who then turns around and spends the money on failing public education system, which continues to deteriorate, and students are less and less prepared every year. It goes to universities, which I know that some of that's part of public education. There's obviously an aspect of that that's not, there's public universities that also get endowment and or have endowments that are donated by their graduates and alumni. But the point is, the middle class American is getting absolutely destroyed by taxes and has absolutely no say in what they're spending the money on, right? The politicians that go off to Washington, D.C. are not paying attention to what we want in a majority concept. There are definitely politicians out there, both in the Congress, state Congresses, federal Congress, the Senate, and once you get into the executive branch, it's just a joke anyway. But these people, we taxpayers, me included, business owners, me, are paying an exorbitant amount of taxes, and we are not paying anything ridiculous compared to socialist countries and democratic socialist countries. Of course, they pay 60, 70, 80% of their income. But from what I understand, those people get and I've never lived in those countries, but they get like universal benefits pretty much in every aspect. Like if you retire, you get a pension that helps take care of you. If you're unemployed, you get a unemployment insurance that takes care of you. They have socialized medicine, which granted is not very good because, the rates for that are not very good, and the actual development of the medicines and the development of the procedures and stuff is not as good as what it would be in private medicine. But at the same time, they're not paying for it. They are paying for it in their taxes, right? But it seems like to me, after 1900, and I couldn't tell you the exact year that the income tax came out, we just started racketing up these giant income tax rates that are continuing to increase and continuing to increase. And then we have this we have $31 trillion in federal debt that we owe now. And the only way to get out of that is to do one of two things. And I know this may be complicated for some of you out there, and this is probably not to my audience, because most of you guys are probably pretty conservative. But as a business owner, if you're not making money or you're increasing debt, you have to do one of two things. You have to decrease how much you spend or increase how much you're bringing in. And from what it looks like, our politicians from both sides, both Republicans and Democrats, have absolutely no plan to decrease spending. We've got Social Security, we've got Obamacare, we've got Medicaid and Medicare. We've got subsidized housing of all different kinds, food stamps. I mean, there's so many government programs now that you could possibly go through that are subsidized by taxpayer dollars, right? And those things are probably not going to go away because there's such a huge population, or a huge majority, it's probably a minority of the population that is collecting these benefits that would never, ever, ever elect another politician if those were taken away. And a lot of people were promised these benefits, right? Like, my parents are much older than most people's parents. My mother is in her early 60s and my dad's in his early 70s. These people are starting to collect Social Security now. My parents are starting to collect Social Security now. And they were promised that because they've paid in for 50 years of their life. They paid into the Social Security system, right? And so I feel like in that situation, they don't deserve, but they've paid for it. They should be getting out from Social Security what they paid in, at least. You know what I mean? Now, when it comes to my generation, the millennials, I'm 27. We probably won't have a retirement age until 69 or 71, or it could be even past that. The Social Security benefits won't be there. That's literally 40 plus years from now. We will not have that. The bucket of money that's out there that's going to be hopefully for Social Security down the road for us is not going to be there. 40 years from now, I can't even imagine what the government spending is going to be, if we're even around at that time period. But it's definitely not going to be around there to pay me when I want to retire, right? Which I don't expect it anymore. But I still pay my Social Security taxes. In fact, I pay extra Social Security taxes because I'm self-employed. So it all comes back to this system that we have, both the justice and the tax system, has now gotten to a point where we have a system full of takers, and our providers, our givers into the system are starting to wane every single day. People are not as willing to pay into the system. There's a 62.4, 62.5% participation rate in the labor market right now. That's less than 2/3 of our working adults are actually participating in the workforce. So that kind of means that 62.4, 62.5% of us are paying for the rest of the 37.5% of these people, right? And there's obviously cases in there of disability and unemployment and all different kinds of things. So that's a very broad math problem that I've put up there. However, this system is not sustainable. We're already increasing the debt by, I think over the past 3 years, we increased the debt by $7 or $8 trillion. Now, granted, we had a pandemic, but even at the rate that we're going, we just passed a $1.7 trillion omnibus bill that I think like $1 trillion of it was deficit spending. Not sustainable. And at some point, we're either going to default as a country, or we're going to have to raise taxes and lower spending. Something has to break here. Okay, if you think of the United States of America as a business, which in the most loose sense of the term, the United States kind of is a business. We have money coming in from taxes. The government has money coming in from taxes and money going out in welfare programs or aid of some kind, or military industrial complex, infrastructure, what the hell ever, But the money has to come from somewhere, and they can't just continue to print it for the rest of time. It's not going to happen. And with inflation the way that it is right now, we are almost at 5% prime rate. Okay. And the way that the economy is right now, it's so over leveraged. Even if they do start to decrease the spending, even if they do start to decrease the spending and decrease inflation, if we decrease those interest rates, people are going to go absolutely bonkers, right? They're going to continue to spend with money that they don't have, money that they shouldn't be taking on anywhere, debt they shouldn't be taking on anyway. And with the amount of leverage that we have in the economy right now, we're going to see all kinds of defaults on everything. Okay. So this system that we have right now has got to end here soon, because we are going to get to a point where we are not going to be able to pay for this stuff back. I saw the other day we paid like $700 or $800 billion in loan payments as a government. That is not sustainable. So that's my spiel. That's my 16-minute spiel on the justice and U.S. tax system. We are sucking the middle class dry. We are sucking the middle class dry to the point where there's not going to be a middle class left in order to pay for everything. And you're gonna have your elites that have all of the money and all of the power, legal power in this in this context. And also you'll have the low class, which will be everybody else who has literally nothing. And there'll be the working poor, which will be paying, almost nothing in taxes, but they'll be doing all the physical labor and all of the shit jobs that nobody wants to do. And then you'll have the non-working poor, which are just collecting benefits like unemployment and assistance of any kind. You name it. I mean, food stamps or just go down the list, HUD housing, whatever you want to say. And that'll be a large minority of the population, if not majority at a certain point. We cannot sustain this system. Even 10 more years, I think we may be in serious trouble. Even 5 more years, I think we may be in serious trouble. People don't, my generation doesn't want to engage with this system anymore because we know that we're not going to get out of it what we put in. We know that in 40 years when we want to retire, the Social Security system is not going to be there. Okay? I think a lot of people think millennials are stupid. We aren't stupid. We just know that the system that was built, that we are now a part of, right? It's just starting to get a part of in order to help build this. We are not going to benefit from this system that we are thrown into, basically. And the people that are behind us are even more screwed because they're going to get a system that is so far deteriorated, they're not even going to know what the system was before it started to deteriorate. So, bad, very bad times, very bad. We got to do something. We got to get real politicians in here who actually care about their constituents and don't want the power and the elite status. Because if we don't, we're just screwed. The United States of America will be a third world country, or we'll be in civil war because we won't be able to pay for anything. The red states will just say, screw this. We're not doing any more of this spending. We don't have the money. We're starting our own country. Or the blue states will say, we want to keep spending. We want to have blah, 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 blah. We're going to go make our own country and run up the debt until the inflation goes through the roof and money is worth nothing, right? So we are on a bad path. Let's move on. FOMC meeting, move on from economy right into the next topic, which is the economy. The FOMC meeting happened yesterday, 0.25 basis points increase. Effective rates now are 4.25 to 4.75% for prime. Like I said earlier, if we get to 5%, the economy is so over leveraged right now. We'll see a nosedive into global. Well, it'll be a recession, obviously in 2023 that people are calling for finally, and people are finally starting to admit that there's going to be a recession in 2023, which there absolutely will be if we haven't already entered it, which will then probably domino into a global depression. The amount of countries that are now going to stop exporting food, stop exporting energy resources like natural gas and fuels of all different kinds is going to increase over this year. And that's going to cause a lot of starvation. It's going to cause a lot of energy crises all over the world, and it's just going to get worse, I think. So I don't want to sound like a nihilist or a pessimist in this case, but it's going to get much worse. And as the rates continue to rise, the unemployment is going to rise in the United States of America. Businesses are not going to be able to hire people, are not going to be able to keep people on. They're going to continue to lay off, as we've seen with almost every single big major tech company out there. Layoffs between 3 and 15% of their workforce getting laid off. I mean, Amazon even laid off, I think, 10% of their employees, 18,000 or something like that. That's insane. It's insane. And there was multiple companies that reported today their earnings on an earnings call today that were way off from where they thought they were going to be, including, I think, Amazon reported today, and they were multiple billions of dollars off of where they thought they were going to be. So I would not be surprised to see even more layoffs over the next couple of weeks. Q1 and the rest of this entire quarter, and possibly the rest of this half, is going to be a bloodbath of layoffs and business closures and bankruptcies and all different kinds of stuff until we continue to ride this flaming plane into the ground that is our economy, that has been over leveraged for the past 15 years. And hopefully we don't have a depression. Hopefully we don't have food shortages. But that's why I have chickens. And so to segue into that real quick, let's get something happy in the middle of this really quickly. I have a total of 17 birds right now. I have 7 full-grown chickens that are laying eggs at approximately between 4 and 6 eggs a day. So if shit goes down and we can't get food anywhere else, I will eat eggs. I'll eat nothing but scrambled eggs and omelets all day long, and I'll be fine. But seriously, I'll post a video later today on my Instagram of the new chicks that I need to take care of. I'm moving them into a bigger pen. The first batch of chickens that we had were their legs, when they were really, really tiny babies, like chicks, they were getting caught in the chicken wire, so they're too small. So we put them in a box, and then we moved them to a bigger box because they needed more space. And now they have outgrown that and started to fly out of that box. So tonight it's going to get down to like -10 wind chill. And I really want them to stay in this box for one more night so they can all cluster together and keep that warmth. But tomorrow, I think I'm going to go ahead and transition them into the bigger coop because they're big enough now. They've got their feathers. Most of their feathers, their wing feathers, tail feathers are coming in, and some of their body feathers are coming in too, so they have a little bit more to insulate them. But yeah, I'm growing chickens. We're doing we did a garden last year. We're going to do a garden this year. We have friends that have pigs, that have cattle. That are going to be able to get us meats of all different kinds. If you don't have if you are not building your own food chain right now of some kind, I would get on that, because I sincerely think that we're going to have food shortages of all different kinds coming up here in 2023. Imports and exports are going to be limited all over the world. The globalization of our world, of Earth, is starting to unravel. And if you don't have your food, whatever you want to call it, your food security down pat by now, you probably should get on that, including getting chickens, because they're extremely awesome. They lay eggs, and they're not very expensive to keep, and they're entertaining. They have their own personalities. And if you ever need tips on how to take care of chickens, send me a DM or something like that. I've been doing it. I was a 10-year 4-H member doing chickens, and I've been doing it for like 15 or 20 years now. So anyway, chickens, back onto bad things. Canadian tyranny. Justin Trudeau is a tyrannical dictator. The amount of money that the Canadian government has wasted on these consultants up there, and all different kinds of extremely restrictive COVID policies that still have not been lifted. Everyone still needs to get the vaccine, still towing the WEF line, the whole deal. The Canadian trucker protest really let me know that the Canadian government has no interest in listening to its people. When I realized that these were just blue-collar truck drivers, who I work with truck drivers all the time, that just wanted to be heard and wanted to let people know that this whole vaccine lockdown thing was a bunch of BS. And then Justin Trudeau came through and decided to arrest these people, call them Nazi, racist, fascists, block their money, block everything, I knew that it was over for the Canadians. I knew that it was they were on the road to something really, really bad, and now we're there. So, last two things. AOC kicked off of committees in the Congress. Thank effing God. That woman is an absolute lunatic, and I'm just glad that she's off of really important committees that she shouldn't have never been on in the first place. Absolutely, probably the dumbest person in all of Congress. And then she threw a giant fit blaming, misogyny and racism, and it's just the fault of white men trying to keep down the black women and the minority women in Congress. No, it's because you're a giant idiot, and you shouldn't be making foreign policy for the United States of America, and you shouldn't even have access to a lot of the information that you're getting that I wouldn't be surprised if she was leaking to the press, which was then a big problem with all kinds of news stories that were going on to the mainstream media and ruining all kinds of foreign policy. So thank God, get her off of there, keep her away from power at all costs, and please, the next time the election comes up to elect her in her constituency, vote no, vote anyone else, please. I think she was just up for election here in the past November election, but please get that woman out of Congress. She does not deserve to be there. Anything would be better. A pile of sawdust would be better. Last thing we're going to talk about, because we're getting a little bit long here, we're at 26 minutes. I belong to a fairly conservative Presbyterian church locally, and the pastor there at the church is a very conservative woman who immigrated from Nigeria, and she made it known at one point that I don't know the details on this because I was not going to church at this time, but she made it known that she would not do a homosexual wedding ceremony. And there's been a lot of news stories here recently. The particular one that I saw was about a Baptist church who would not do a homosexual wedding ceremony. And I have nothing against gays or lesbians in any way. I have gay friends. I've had gay friends since I was in high school. Still talk to them to this day. Absolutely no problem. One of my best friends is gay. Do not care. Absolutely whatever. But in this context, the religious aspect of marriage is between a man and a woman. And so I understand why people do not want to have different marriages within the church. In my pastor's case, she came from Nigeria, where the thought of homosexuality or gay marriage is not just frowned upon socially. That's something that you get stoned for. That's something that they kill you for. They throw you off a building, or they rip you apart, or do horrible things to you with machetes. And she said that she would not do one, would not do a gay wedding. And there were a lot of people in the church, in my conservative church, they got upset and no longer go to church because of that reason. But if she were to do that and then try to go back to Nigeria to visit family, and this could also happen to her family too while she's still over there, while she's here, sorry, they would kill her. They would, and they knew about this happening, and she did a ceremony like that, they would kill her. And so people fail to realize that it's not about not liking people. It's not that conservatives or people who are conservative or traditional don't like gay people. It has never been about that. It's about the fact that the institution of marriage in the religious context is between a man and a woman. And when it comes to conservative values, that is extremely important. And unfortunately, a lot of people take that as a profession of hate instead of a profession of I don't agree with your lifestyle, but I still love you as a human being, and I won't treat you any differently, right? In this context, in this religious context of conservative, religious, traditional marriage, this does not fit there, right? And some people can't handle that. So anyway, not to end off on a really weird conservative religious note, but there you go. It's coming up on 30 minutes, so we're going to close this out. I'll be posting more on Instagram here, especially of the chickens. Show you guys exactly what we're doing with that. But follow me on YouTube. Obviously, it's David Coleman. You need to follow me on Rumble also, David Coleman 27. On Instagram, it's David Coleman YT for YouTube. And then on Twitter, it's Colema, Colema 63 ETH. And I talk a lot about financial markets and politics on Twitter. Besides that, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and press the notification bell. I'm going to be posting every day like I have 4 for 4 this week. Let's go. We're going to swing for 5 for 5 tomorrow and do a full week. And we're going to keep going because the world keeps getting more and more interesting. And there's lots to talk about. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.